Everyone. Hey, it's Jennifer Beatles. Happy, Tuesday afternoon today. Just want to see, can you guys hear me okay? I think everyone should be on mute. If you guys can hear me, go ahead and type in oh, perfect. I see some hands raised. All right, wow, lots of, everyone's raising their hands. So how's everyone doing today? If you can, put in the chat. And also, if you can share with me where you are tuning in from today. So I am here in the rainy Seattle, Washington area. I'm actually north of Seattle. And as of, Saturday, the rain started. We had this massive hail and thunderstorm. So we started the rain, and that means for us, it is vacation time. So we are getting ready to head out for we're leaving next week to go to Yellowstone. We're going to spend a couple weeks in Yellowstone. We'll come back, and then we'll go to Nashville, and then we'll come back, and we'll take our kind of longer term winter vacation. We're going to Florida, Puerto Rico, and Costa Rica. So super excited to get out of this rain. All right, thank you guys so much. Awesome. So we've got a lot of people raising their hands. So really quick here before we get started, before I turn my screen off and go through the presentation. So I'm going to try to keep this to an hour. I think some of you guys are on lunch breaks or have kind of taken a little bit of break from your everyday kind of work to be here today. So I want to value your time, and I appreciate you guys for being on here. My goal today is to add a lot of value to you guys through this kind of framework and kind of give you guys a guide for building a portfolio that can replace your income. But first, I want to tell you a little bit of background about how this all got started, this training that I'm going to teach you guys on today. So for those that don't know, the majority of my day is spent like this in front of my computer on the phone. So sometimes I have, anywhere from 4 to 5 calls a day. I talk to different investors about, putting together a strategy for how to build a rental portfolio to replace income, scaling up, things like that. And a couple of months ago, my husband and I, we were sitting down at dinner, our family with our daughter, and we were talking about our day. And he had asked me, okay, how'd your day go? And I think I had like 5 or 6 calls that day. So 5 or 6 investor calls. And I was telling him that pretty much every call was the same, but in a good way. So the calls went like, the investors were saying, okay, so, here's my individual scenario. How can I scale up? What advice would you give me? Where can I start? What can I do to build this portfolio? And so I was telling my husband, I really need to come up with something that can kind of lay out the framework and kind of serve as a guide for everyone. Because I realized that, again, the majority of the investors all have that same goal of, replacing their income or living the lifestyle that they want to live, right? And so, anyways, I grabbed my little notepad and notebook, and I'm like, okay, so what did we do? How did we do this? And the other friends that we've worked with that have done the same, or the clients that we've worked with over the years. I have some clients that now make $20,000 a month in passive income. And those clients, they did that in less than 4 years. So it's, we have case study after case study of all of these investors that have done it. And so anyways, I'm like, okay, well, first and foremost, it starts with your mindset. So it doesn't matter, if you have all the money in the world and you have all the connections in the world, if you don't have your mindset right, then you're not going to take that step, right? It's just not going to happen. You have to kind of, commit to the process of, building this portfolio. And so it's like, okay, so what do you need for mindset? Kind of wrote all those things down. And then it's like, okay, strategies, right? Okay, so we need these different strategies and, connections. Okay, so, even if you have all the money in the world and you have strategies, but you don't have connections to people that can help you source deals to put your portfolio together, then shoot, that's important too. So anyway, so that's how this all came about is, I wrote everything down, and then I went through kind of our story, and then I went through all of the stories of the other investor, friends of ours and clients that we've worked with. And I'm like, okay, I think I have it. And so I drew this all out. And the first time that I actually presented it was at our second buy and hold workshop. And, literally just this big whiteboard, I drew it all out, and I'm like, okay, guys, this is over the last 12 years of, myself putting our portfolio together and working with all these investors, like, this is what I found. What do you guys think? It was like silence. And then all of a sudden hands started raising. They're like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This is amazing. I realized, that I'm missing out on this one area that you brought up. And I think that's, if I focus on that, then that'll help me scale. And so anyways, it was really fun. And so I'm excited to share this with you guys today. This will now be my third time sharing with you guys. So cool. All right. How are we doing? We've got a lot of people here from Washington. Cool. And if you're just joining us, let us know where you are joining us from today. So we'll see who's traveled the farthest. Ooh, we've got Oregon. Awesome. Cool. And Matt and Lake Stevens. Hey, you're right next door. You're my neighbor. Okay. Let me get my screen share on here. Share. Okay. Get it in presentation mode. All right. Actually, I'm going to turn this off because I distracted myself with that. Okay. So, and then also, as you guys are going along, feel free to, I'd like to make this as interactive as possible. A lot of this stuff, I'm really used to kind of doing these trainings in person, and it's great because obviously I get to see you guys and we get to kind of collaborate on things and answer questions. So if you can, feel free to use the chat as we go through this. And then there'll be a couple of sections where I'll actually stop, look through the chat, and then we can kind of unpack some of this stuff. So, all right. So let's get started here. How to build a rental portfolio that nets $10,000 per month. Okay. So first and foremost, I want to ask you guys a question, and I want you guys to think about this question. So what if your rental portfolio paid you a six-figure income, increased your net worth like, wow, and gave you the time and freedom to live your ideal lifestyle? Think about that for a moment. And I want to let you in on a secret. It can. Now, my next question, does any of this sound familiar? So you're hustling like crazy, working 40+ hour weeks. So you're wondering if you can really keep living like this for the next 40 years. Or maybe you're self-employed and you're making a lot of good money, but if you're not always working to acquire new customers, your income experiences highs and lows throughout the year. That was like my life for the longest time. Other question. So if you don't show up to work or you take time off from your business, you don't earn an income? Does that sound like you? So whether you're employed by somebody else or self-employed, you're still trading time for money, which is your most valuable commodity. And then the last question is, you're not sure when and how you can ever stop working. So retirement seems like a distant event in the future, and you're not sure if you can stop when and how you can stop working. And the truth is, nothing changes if nothing changes. If you want to achieve your goals, live your ideal lifestyle, increase your net worth, like wow, and become besties with high achievers doing big things, then you need to get a plan ASAP. And this is the thing, is I notice that most people struggle with, first and foremost, like creating a plan. So they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, kind of looking at opportunities and, strategies as they kind of come to them, but they don't necessarily have a plan or a guide in place. And the challenge is, I see this a lot where, people are trying to do too many things at once. And so they're saying, well, shoot, maybe I'll go and flip properties for a while and then, do this kind of business for a little bit and then build up some money and then use that money and take that and go over here on the rental side. And, oh, shoot, maybe I should also learn wholesaling and, mobile home parks and all these different things. And the challenge is, that's a lot of different things at once. And it lacks kind of an overall plan. And not having that plan, a lot of people, will experience burnout. And then when you experience burnout, most people fall back into their comfort zone. So I want to invite you guys to think about this. If you want something that you've never had, you must be willing to do something that you've never done. And this is a quote from Thomas Jefferson, and I love this. And actually, this is something that, kind of speaking about comfort zone, this is something that I practice all the time. So this is a big kind of reason why we travel so much, and I'll explain this to you guys a little bit as well. But traveling and, purposefully putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, you grow. And now I feel like I've experienced a level of comfort in discomfort. And with that, just you get explosive growth. So, by willing to do something that you've never done, you'll be, getting something that you've never had before. All right. So for those that don't know me, so my name is Jennifer Beatles. This is me and my husband. We were in Uluwatu, this photo here in Bali, which is one of my favorite places in the entire world. So I'm the founder and CEO of Agents Invest. That is, we're a real estate investment brokerage based in the Seattle area, focused only on working with buy and hold investors. I'm also the founder of Addicted to ROI. That is a community, that's you guys, of over 1,000 real estate investors. And we have investors from other states, and even actually we've got some Canadian investors in the house, which is awesome. And this is kind of where our education comes from. So that's a huge value for me, as I love teaching and training people, so that, there's kind of this awareness, right? When you're investing and you get a plan. I've also been a licensed investment agent since 2009. I sold over $100 million in investment real estate. I've built a 6-figure-a-year passive income rental portfolio. I'm also the co-owner of a development and excavation company that is kind of my husband's baby. He runs our, we kind of focus on small multifamily new construction, build to rent deals here in the greater Seattle area. And then I'm also a limited partner on 192 units in San Antonio, and invest passively in other funds and syndication. But really, we're just average people who had enough discipline to do what it takes to build a portfolio that could replace our income. Also, for us, the purpose of investing is to fund our ideal lifestyle. So as I mentioned, we love to travel because travel gets us outside of our comfort zone. So in this photo, we've got us on the Great Wall of China with our 4-year-old. And then we have a picture there that's in Siem Reap, Cambodia. And then on the right there is, that one is in Phi Phi Island in Thailand, which is also an amazing place to go. A big area of focus for us is owning businesses with scaled revenue. So, we really have 3 businesses as a family. So we've got our personal rental portfolio, Agents Invest, our real estate brokerage, and then NWC Development, our development company. And so that's a big focus for us, is obviously, our rental income provides us with a good amount of income. We probably could just live off of our rental income alone, but, being in your kind of early 30s, you're going to do something. We can't just sit around and do nothing. So we really enjoy owning and running these businesses, so long as they have scaled revenue, right? So we want to make sure that we can, still continue to live the lifestyle that we want to live. And this is in Singapore, which is also an amazing place. I also love helping people invest. So that's a passion of mine. I love teaching. I love helping. You guys will probably hear me, I say a lot of times, our investor friends, and really that's the truth. So a lot of people that have kind of come and reached out to us about investing have truly become our friends. So this is our half of our group on the second Spokane group investing trip that we took. And a lot of these people are, again, just, personal friends that we meet up with regularly. And I love teaching as much as traveling. So I covered that one. This is our first group investment trip. So this is our first buy and hold workshop. So it's a great group there. All right. So I want to, before we kind of get into today's content, the kind of meat and bones here, there's something I want to point out. So my goal for today is to serve as your guide as we go through the content. So your results and your experience is going to depend on your mindset, which is why we start there. And as an example, this is our family actually in Cambodia last November. And so this is kind of talking about a guide. So I wanted to visit the Angkor complex, Angkor being the capital of the Khmer Empire, which was kind of run between the 9th and 15th centuries. So in all of our research online, the recommendation was to buy the ticket and explore on your own. There was no need to hire a guide. I think there's, almost 1,000 different temples there. The cost to hire the guide was double the price of the ticket. So my plan was to hire the guide for one day and then explore on our own the second day. What we soon realized was the value of having a guide who spends every day doing these tours. And in that time, we saved a ton of time. So I didn't have to go online and research, okay, well, what temples should we go to when? The other benefit is that he knew exactly what time for us to start and which temples to go to, because it's super hot there. We were there in November, but it was still like 95 degrees. And so what he was able to do is, we got in his car and he said, all right, we're going to go to this temple first because there's not going to be as many crowds. And then as the day goes on and as the sun kind of, moves across the sky, we're going to go to different temples that have more shade so that it'll be a little bit more comfortable with you guys. And so we were blown away having this guide. Obviously he even took pictures for us, which normally we wouldn't get if normally I'm the picture taker. And so the second day I'm like, look, we've got to get this guide again. There's so much value in having someone that has, been through this whole kind of experience and kind of knows how to do that. So again, my goal is to be your guide, just like we had this amazing guide in Cambodia, and it made our experience so much better and so much more comfortable. All right. So now to the good stuff. So now it's time for me to share my framework on how to build a $10,000 per month rental portfolio. So again, this is 12 years in the making, really kind of going through what worked for us and what worked for a lot of our investor friends that have done it themselves. All right. So I know this is my really sad illustrator getting through this. So in the middle here, that's $10,000 a month. And for some people, $10,000 a month may sound like a far off, way too far out number. And that's okay. And for some people, you might say, shoot, $10,000 isn't going to do it. I need to get $20,000 a month. Well, I want to tell you guys that it doesn't matter whether it's 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. What I've learned is that everything here that I'm going to show you is going to have you, get to that scale number of whatever that is for you. So first and foremost, you've got to have the right mindset. So I kind of have alluded to that in the beginning is I've met people who, again, have a massive amount of money and a lot of connections. But if they're not in the right mindset or they don't see the why or the purpose or they're not committed to doing what it takes, then it's just not going to happen for them. I've even had people who had actually started and then, they owned a couple properties and they realized, shoot, it's too stressful or if it's just not for us. And then they decided to sell and, kind of do a different strategy. So the big thing is real estate investing is not for everyone. You really have to have, again, that focus on why and the right mindset in order to make it work for you. The next thing that you need to have and that everyone that I know that's done this has had is a lot of different strategies. So it's super important to have different investing strategies because everyone's at a different place. So some people have a significant amount of money to invest. Some people have a smaller amount of money to invest. And again, that doesn't necessarily matter, but you're going to have different strategies for different levels of, capital to invest with. And then the third thing, and arguably the most important, is connections. So even if you have the right mindset and all of the strategies that you know about, if you don't have connections to other people who can help you do this, then it's going to be really hard to get this off the ground. So with all of these different outcomes, there's little details that kind of fall into place. So first and foremost, you have to get your financial house in order. And so the problem is most investors do not get a long-term financing plan in place before they invest. They often run out of money or are unable to qualify for more properties. And this comes up a lot. So, I have a lot of investor calls where they'll say, hey, I had bought a couple properties, but now I've run out of money. And so how do I continue to invest when I've spent all of my savings on the portfolio that I have currently? And so that's a real thing. And actually, this was our experience too. As my husband and I, as we had bought a couple properties and we're like, well, shoot, it's going to take another year, maybe longer, to save up enough money to get to the next property. So we've got to figure out a way to get our financial house in order that we can be able to qualify and purchase multiple properties and literally get as many loans as we want. So the outcome here is, obviously, for one, people maybe that are just getting started get pre-approved and get that long-term financing plan in place. And then also getting access to capital to buy the deals that that meet your criteria. And, there's kind of a lot of detail in that. The next thing is focusing on scale. So focus on building passive income. So the thing here is that the average person spends the majority of their time earning the lowest possible dollar per hour that they can make. And it's not scalable, and it requires that they show up to earn a paycheck. So kind of like we had talked about in the beginning, is if this sounds like you, where you're working 40 plus hours a week and you have to continually show up to earn an income, then you'll have to continually show up to earn an income. When I started putting this plan in place, kind of focusing on scaling passive income streams, that actually, started for us, I think it was early 2010. And, we were kind of early in our careers making some good money. And I had quite a few kind of agent friends, at that point I was working primarily as a real estate agent. And I was taking all of the income that I was making and setting it aside to invest. And I remember somebody that, actually quite a few of you might know this person, but I won't name them, that sat down with me and was like, well, shoot, Jennifer, why are you focused on using some of your income to buy a rental that maybe will cash flow, $700 a month, when if you just did one more deal a month, you could make 10 grand extra a month? And the thing is, what he didn't understand, this very multimillionaire, kind of guy that I know, I was investing for the future, and I was focusing on scaling my income. Because the thing is, I didn't want to work as a real estate agent, having to sell an extra house a month or 5 houses or, whatever to make an income. I wanted to take some of that income off the table and get passive income coming in so that we could be wherever in the world and see that income come in. So I'm so glad that we made the commitment to focusing on that. But the thing is, $700 a month in passive income on one property, it kind of seems insignificant when you're just getting started. And it's tough because if you don't have other people that you're surrounding yourself with, or other people that you're hanging out with that have those, bigger passive income, then, it's tough to keep going, right? Because again, I think I had talked about this at a meetup I had done a couple weeks ago, is I would say that it's pretty easy to make good money. If you're willing to put the time and effort in, it's pretty darn easy to make good money. The harder thing is to have the discipline to take some of that money and go and plop, thousands of dollars down to get $700 a month. That is a complete mindset shift. And if you were to just tell that to the average person, they would say that doesn't make sense. But if you would talk to other investors about that, they would say, awesome, now go do it again. And that's the difference of having a tribe and having a network that kind of gets what you're going after and kind of gets that same mindset. So sorry, on my soapbox there. But the solution is, if you make a commitment to building passive income streams, then sure, you'll be working full time and building passive income on the side, but eventually it pays off, and it pays off huge. I'm so grateful that we put in the time and effort those years ago. And of course, we're still doing it, maybe at a little bit different scale, that now has allowed us to have that freedom and to, travel and get that passive income. The next thing, so your goals have to connect to your criteria. So this is something that, again, I see a lot of times where investors will, they'll have the mindset, they'll have the strategies, they'll have the connections, but they're still not quite sure how to focus on deals that match their goals. And a lot of that too is, for one, getting clarity on your goals. A lot of times I'll have investors ask me questions like, hey, can you analyze a deal for me? And so, we'll jump on a call or we'll jump on, something online. And the first thing I ask is, hey, before we analyze this deal, what is your goal? And they're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And the thing is, it's like, if you don't know what your goal is or kind of, what the target is really, then it's going to be really hard. You might find yourself matching certain deals or trying to kind of justify maybe a certain emotional buy or an emotional investment because it looks good at the time or somebody else said it was a good deal. But the thing is, what might be a good deal to you could be completely different to me. And so my goals are different than your goals. Like all of us had different goals. But you want to make sure that you first and foremost, when you're kind of getting this framework done for yourself and a plan in place for yourself, is first figure out your goals. And then as you're looking at deals, and we'll talk about, kind of how to get a lot of deals kind of coming your way, then you'll want to make sure that you're matching up these different deals to your goals. And let me give you guys another example. So a couple of years ago, our criteria was literally, we're going to buy as much as we can possibly afford and use the BRRRR strategy and kind of get our money back. And, we just want to kind of acquire these properties. And we focused on the really heavy value add stuff, the stuff that was really, really fixer upper. And it took a lot of time and a lot of effort. And now it paid off. But now, 10 years down the road, we are not as interested in taking on a lot of these fixer upper type properties. And so now our new goals are, hey, we want a return on time invested, not so much a return on investment. I mean, return on investment is important, but we don't want to spend the time that it takes to take on a lot of these properties and kind of manage and oversee people. So it is completely different for us. So now, we have like one property that we're buying in Tennessee, and it is a very different buy than a lot of the properties that we bought early on. So it's a 1995, 100% occupied 8-unit that it has some value to be added, but it doesn't need a whole lot of work. And for us, it's because, I can get an amazing return on time. So that's kind of how, so that thing changes over time is, connecting your goals to your criteria. All right. So let's talk about strategies. So where to invest. So the problem is that most people think out of state or out of area investing is risky. And so they choose to either not invest at all or invest in their own backyard, which again, may not help them achieve their goals. So here, this is kind of where we talk about selecting markets. And actually I'm going to do a deep dive on selecting markets today. So, we'll dive into that a little bit. With each one of these, by the way, guys, there's deep dives. And so I know I'm really just scratching the surface. I'm sure that you guys are like, well, now I have 5 additional questions from, how do you connect your goals to your criteria and all of that. So that's okay. Again, my goal is just to kind of get you guys starting to think about some of these things. And then I'll talk to you a little bit more about how we can deep dive into some of these. So we're going to deep dive about where to invest today. But ideally, you will have identified 3 markets that you'll be analyzing deals in. I suggest that people don't go more than 3 because then it's really hard to keep tabs on what's happening in the market if you have more than that. But ideally, 3 different markets where you're getting a consistent deal flow in. So we'll dive into that. All right. So the other thing for strategies, you have to have recession-proof strategies. So the thing is, investing can be risky. And if you're not careful, as we had seen in the 2008 to 2012 market, a lot of people lost a lot of money. And the thing is that they didn't necessarily have recession-proof strategies. So that was like really at the beginning of my career, which was a huge benefit for me because the majority of my conversations working as a real estate agent was dealing with short sales and bank owns. And I kind of noticed these patterns of really why people were losing properties. And the majority of the reason why people were losing properties is because they had a strategy that focused solely on the price going up. So what I want you guys to think about, and again, this is a whole kind of topic that's, probably at least an hour of going into recession-proof strategies, is really focusing on different strategies and properties that can withstand a recession. So I know a lot of people right now are saying, well, should I wait and save my money until the next, fall happens? Or, should I wait for something to happen before I do something? And honestly, that's an individual's opinion. I can tell you guys that myself and the other experienced investors that I know are still buying. but we're being cautiously optimistic and we're buying very strategically. So that's something that's super important is, again, to kind of paying attention to what you're getting into and making sure that, these properties are cash flowing today. So that's super important. All right, the next strategy, and this is something that often gets overlooked. So a lot of times people are talking about, okay, so where to invest, what to buy, how to analyze deals, and then the training kind of stops there. But for me, I think that the asset management / operations is extremely important. So poor management can cause stress and cost money, making the overall returns lower. So you could buy the best deal in the world and have a really either poor property manager or poor asset management strategy, and it is not going to be a good deal. It's just not going to work for you guys. On the other side, you can make a poor buy, but if you have good asset management and good operations, you can turn it around. So actually, I have a couple of examples of this. I mean, shoot, I bought a duplex that was 1 year old that was 2008, right before the crash. $90,000 down. It literally, you guys, I'm still kind of embarrassed to tell this, but I want to tell you guys the story. So $90,000 down, and it lost $800 a month. And I knew that going in, but that was what I was taught is, hey, you're not buying for cash flow. Properties double every 10 years. All it's going to cost you is $800 a month to own this asset. And then in 10 years, the property is going to be worth double. Well, the downside is the Great Recession happened. And so the property value dropped. Shoot, I bought it for $475. I think it went down to the lowest at one time was $310, which is horrible. But I just had to hold on to it longer. So what I did is I started increasing rents and I started looking for opportunity to add additional value. And, over time, I think we sold that property in 2017. And we sold it for $575,000. So bought it for $475, sold it for $575. And at the end, I think we were getting like $700 a month in cash flow. So again, even if you make a mistake, it's actually really hard to lose a significant amount of money if you do it right, buy and hold investing. And worst case scenario, okay, you have to hold on to the asset for longer, implement some good operational kind of systems and processes, increase the income. And, then there might be that opportunity to exit when it makes sense. All right. Hope this is making sense. I see some questions coming in. So I'm going to go through this and then we're going to open it up for questions, or I'm going to address the questions. All right. Last thing is connections. So first thing is you need to focus on building a team of empire builders and empire protectors. So what do I mean by that? So empire builders are people that are going to help you build your empire. So an example of that would be real estate agents, wholesalers, other mentors, also people in your tribe, people that your friends, your people that are other investors that can help you do that. The other category here is empire protectors. So empire protectors are going to be your CPAs, your attorneys, your insurance people. These are the people who are going to come behind you and make sure that what you're building gets protected. So you want to make sure that you have a healthy balance of both. And first and foremost, you need these teams of people, right? So, that's something that you really need to make sure that you're working with empire builders. So specifically on the real estate agent side, people that understand or agents that understand the investment side. So if you're working with, and these are great, nice people, but if you're working with a retail agent who doesn't quite understand the investment side, and maybe you're finding yourself teaching or training them, it's going to take you a lot longer to scale and build up your portfolio if you're working with people that you have to teach and train. What you want to do is put together a kind of group of people who are going to help you build and help you protect, that are giving you advice and are bringing deals in front of you. So that you can spend your time, analyzing deals, doing the asset management operations, making sure that your financial house is in order, all of those different things. So kind of being really, truly the CEO of your rental portfolio. So that's what we want to go here. Next is, I call this the Deal Faucet. I'm sure that I could find a better way to call this, but truly, I think most people struggle with turning on the deal faucet and in spending too much time searching for deals themselves. And also, if you're not analyzing at least 5 deals a week, then you're probably not spending enough time building that deal analysis skill set. And truly, you guys, analyzing deals is a skill set. I think that that's also another challenge that I see that's super common for investors is they say, well, okay, so I got a deal, or the person that sent me the deal says it's a deal, but I'm not quite sure what I need to look for. I'm not quite sure how to analyze it. And, again, I think that the best thing is, for one, get some skills on how to analyze a deal. So that's a strategy, right? And then the next thing is making sure that you're looking at enough deals. I was in one of the Facebook groups that a friend of mine runs, the other night. And that was something that somebody came up with. So they're like, shoot, okay, I've got all the money to invest. I know what I'm looking for. I know where I want to look for it. But shoot, I'm spending so much time looking for deals, and I'm just not having, good luck. And I'm also working full time. And then my wife has a business. And how do you guys do this? And immediately I said, okay, that guy doesn't have the empire builder, and that, that's sending them the deals, and they're not getting enough deals every week to look at. So some of these also kind of go hand in hand. So the outcome for this one is that you guys are receiving at least 5 pre-vetted on or off market deals sent to you each week in the markets that you've chosen. So in the chat, if you guys are getting at least 5 deals a week, let me know. Or maybe if that's a struggle for you, let me know. All right. And then I want to cover the last, but probably, I think I said this like twice, but truly the most important, strategy in all of this is attracting your tribe. So this is where your network is your net worth comes into play. And if you spend your time with average people, this is kind of harsh, but you will have an average life. So this is something that actually when investors come to me, I literally have this, I wish I could show you guys, but I have this giant whiteboard that sits behind my computer, and it is this entire mind map written on this whiteboard in my handwriting. And when investors give me a challenge that they have, I can tell you that it falls on one of these categories. So for example, for us, we had achieved financial freedom, so we make more than $10,000 a month in our portfolio. And my husband and I were like, shoot, okay, we want to scale this up more. And, we were kind of doing all of these things and, getting deals. We have great agents. Our operations are bulletproof, awesome. We have all these investment proof strategies. We know where we're investing, all of these things. But I'm like, gosh, there's something that's holding us back. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And I realized, and again, this is kind of harsh, is that we were not hanging out with enough people that had bigger portfolios and were thinking bigger than us. And so literally we sat down and we were kind of like, okay, so who do we need to become and who do we need to hang out with in order to start thinking bigger? And I want to give you guys an example of that. So one, I talk about him quite often, and he's kind of a mentor. We kind of Facebook and Instagram stalk him. And if you guys want to join in, it's really awesome. His name is Scott Isaac, Isaak. And he is a guy, an incredible human being, an incredible family. He has a $70 million portfolio, and he started investing 3 years ago, you guys. So anyways, we had the ability to, through our connections, get in touch with Scott. Scott has come now and spoken at 3 of our events because he's just amazing, and I try to bring him back as much as possible and add value to his life. But Scott, really, we've had some private conversations with Scott about scaling and building up, and how amazing it has been for us to have someone like him. Scott, in addition to his $70 million, and I think he has 775 units, and he's currently building a 51-unit mixed use property, new construction. He's never developed properties before in his life. And he's doing a 51-unit ground up construction in downtown Spokane. And so anyway, so we had made friends with Scott a couple months ago, actually not a couple months ago, about a year and a half ago. And we had a deal come to us that was a 14-unit new build in Spokane. And as part of that, we got a architecture bid back for $100,000. And I was thinking, this is completely outrageous. $100,000. We have never paid that much for architecture drawings on any of our new construction before. But on the other hand, this is the largest, 14 units is the largest that we would have built. And so by having someone like Scott Isaac in our database, we called Scott up and it said, hey, Scott, we got a bid for $100,000 on this 14 unit in Spokane. What do you think? And immediately he's like, I paid $300,000 for architecture drawings on a 51 unit. You guys are getting ripped off. Get out of that. Don't work with those guys or, whatever. And that was huge. So not only has Scott taught us to think bigger, having the ability to literally call someone up and ask that one question is huge. I want to give you guys another example of how I and we attract our tribe. So back in August, I went to Lithuania. And if you're wondering what the heck is Lithuania, it's actually a country in the Baltics, teeny tiny little country. They, got out of communism in like 1993. So it's kind of been shut off to the world for a long time. So anyways, I went to this entrepreneurship camp and we spent a week out in the middle of nowhere in Trakai, Lithuania. And there I met my roommate. Actually, we had in these, if you're in our Facebook group, you probably will have seen some of the photos. But anyways, there's 50 of us entrepreneurs from all over the world that went to this camp. And we had to stay 12 people per cabin with one bathroom. So anyways, put that in your mind. My roomie, or one of my roomies, was a woman named Ann Belter. And Ann and her husband, Steve, they live in Wisconsin. And they built a portfolio 100% owned by themselves. So this is not through syndication. This is not, using other people's money. This is literally them putting in the work to build this up. They have 108 units. And Ann has never been on a podcast before. She's never done any kind of training. I have her coming on in October to do a deep dive with me. And we're going to record the whole story of how she did this. And it's just nuts. And I met some other really great people. Should I tell you guys another story? So in Lithuania, I also met a woman from Lithuania who travels all over the world. She is she runs operations for a global private equity firm. And she's an incredible person. And somehow her and I were talking about my desire to get into mixed martial arts. That's something that, again, talk about extreme discomfort. And she trains Krav Maga. And Krav Maga is this Israeli military training. She actually went to Israel, stayed in the West Bank, and did this Krav Maga training. And so anyways, made a great connection with her. She had sent me some connections for Israel, and that is now on my goals to go to Israel, not stay in the West Bank. We're going to stay in Tel Aviv, but do this Krav Maga training. Well, I had put that out there to our database that this is something that I was going to do in the next year. And my CPA, who is an empire protector for me, most well-connected CPA out there, if you guys need to know him, Mark Canton in Seattle is incredible. He reached out to me, connected me to a guy named Amit. Amit is a local trainer of Krav Maga. And literally last night, I am still sore to prove it. We trained Krav Maga, and Amit actually lived in Israel and kind of had trained with the military there. So anyways, that's just the power of connection. I can go on for days and days and days about attracting your tribe, focusing first on how you can add value to others, and then how you can attract people into your tribe and make these amazing connections and just have the greatest life from that. So anyways, that's a super important thing that I want you guys to focus on. Now, I know let me check time here. Okay. Yep. We've got about 17 minutes left. So another thing I want to point out, as you guys can see here, anyone that's kind of been in our database and maybe have attended quite a few of our events, do you see any common themes here? I'm just curious if you guys see any common themes. And also go ahead and put some questions in. I'll go ahead and go to the next slide here in a minute, and we can kind of unpack some of these questions. And I'll give you guys some hints. So anyone that's on our deal list, Do you guys notice that you typically get at least 5 pre-vetted on and off market deals every week? Do you notice that we have a team and a network of empire builders, and anyone that's ever reached out asking for insurance and CPAs and attorneys, we have these empire protectors. Do you notice that we do monthly meetups and we host at least a couple times a year weekend investing trips, potentially to attract your tribe? That's kind of where that comes from. Do you notice that we do trainings on where to invest, recession-proof strategies, asset management? I mean, shoot, I rotate those categories quite a bit. So truly, I've been hinting along at all of this stuff for anyone, again, that's been in our database for a while. So hopefully, maybe this is a new format that you haven't seen before, but you guys have been getting this stuff all along, so it's kind of cool. All right, I'm going to move to this next slide, and I'm going to go to the chat here. Oops, before I deep dive. Okay, actually, I'm going to hit the Q&A. Brandon, what is the lowest down you've used for an investment property? 0. So I've literally put 0 down on an investment property before. There's a little bit of strategy to do that, but to answer your question, that is the lowest. All right, Avi, other than saving and putting down from my income, what are other ways to get access to capital? Yeah, I have a whole training on this. Honestly, and it's actually a worksheet. You kind of have to be in the right mindset and kind of start thinking about, the different ways that you can get access to capital. So, I mean, just really quickly, like one way is individual retirement accounts. So we have a lot of people, we did a webinar shoot on the other night, or maybe that was last week, talking about how to invest with self-directed IRA or 401k. So that's something that came up. So that's one example, but I have a ton of other examples for you as well, and I'll kind of get to that. How do I know if my goals are realistic for today's market? Amazing question. I would definitely ask someone that's actively investing. So first and foremost, get your goals down and get your criteria, and then ask a couple people and say, hey, what do you think? And get their feedback. All right. What is the name of your accountants again? Mark Canton. All right. And then strategies to obtain off-market deals. Real estate agents. They are the most well-connected people, and they are free for you to use. I love working with real estate agents because, again, they get compensated only if they add value to you. So think about that. A real estate agent only gets paid if they add value to you by bringing you off-market deals. So that's a great way. And actually, Avi, we also did a training shoot a couple months ago of the 14 different ways to obtain off-market deals. So if you're interested in that, let me know. CPA, yep, Mark Canton, amazing. Can we talk more about how to continue investing after you've spent all of your money on rentals? Yeah, so Scott, that's a whole strategy in itself. And actually, I just did a shoot. I recorded a whole thing on how we did it. Maybe, Scott, I like you, so I can give you access to that. All right. What is target cash flow per unit you look for in good investment for single family homes? Manish, that's a really good question. I think it depends on the area. So I look at cash on cash return and cash flow per unit. So in some ways, if the cash on cash return is through the roof, then I might be okay with a little bit of a lower cash flow per unit. My strategy is not single family homes anymore though. But I can tell you that generally speaking, as long as the cash on cash return is good, anywhere from like $2 to even almost $500 a month with single family. 500, it's a little bit hard to get to, but I hope that helps. And then, all right, being 23 and looking at investing can be terrifying. Yes, Brandon. Oh my gosh, yes. Actually, I got started at 21 and everyone thought I was crazy. And honestly, I can tell you guys that if the average person tells you that you're crazy, you're probably doing something right. And I know that sounds kind of like flippant advice, but I found that the majority of the time, if you can do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, the opposite of what the average person is doing, then you're doing something right. So what did you do to change your mindset and take that leap? First, I got really, really serious about those goals. So again, my husband and I, and anyone that's married or has a spouse or a partner or a business partner, you guys have to be on the same page. I've even had it before where investors say, hey, my husband or my wife isn't on the same page as me. Can you convince them? Can you talk to them? And honestly, that's really tough. I think that you guys need to really kind of do that together. And some examples I would say is you can give your spouse or your partner some real life examples of other people that have done it. Sometimes people just need to see other people that have done it. My husband was a little bit like that. Is he had a really good union paying job, and he's like, I don't really understand. If I just work, another 30 years, we could have a really good pension. And but the challenge for me was the 30 years thing. Is I am extremely impatient. So much so that it is a strength that can become a weakness. And a strength is because I'm extremely impatient, I pretty much just like get shit done. So basically, with that, when that impatience kicks in, I will move mountains to achieve what I'm looking to achieve. But I also am willing to pay the price. And so that's the thing is we have a lot of people, even like our friends, who say, shoot, we want to have the life that you want to live. We want to live the life that you guys have, Beatles family. And sometimes I'll give them a little bit of homework, or sometimes I'll say, okay, well, hey, why don't you do X, Y, and Z? And a lot of people stop there and they say, well, shoot, I'm looking for the magic way or the escalator, to achieving, I want the result, but I'm not willing to put in the work. And to be honest, unless you have an unlimited amount of money or you win the lottery or your family gives you money, you're going to have to do a lot of work. So anyway, so changing the mindset and taking that leap is you need to start thinking about what would be your ideal outcome and get so committed to that outcome that you're willing to do what it takes to, put in the work. So for you, maybe it's that, for us, it's travel, right? It's freedom and travel. So for you, it might be something different. Or maybe it is freedom and travel. But start thinking about, well, shoot, if you had the freedom to travel and to not work for the rest of your life, could you work really hard for 2 to 3 years or 4 years in order to get that? And if so, then start doing it. Okay, Facebook group, it's Addicted to ROI. And then I will, I'll send that out in a link too. How can I get the invite for meetings? I'll get that. Okay, cool. All right, so here's some Q&A. I might get to some of these in the, okay, holy cow, you guys have some really fantastic, amazing questions. I am running over, so I'm gonna go ahead and go through this next training. Maybe it'll answer some questions, and then I'll do another Q&A in the end, and then I'll give you guys some tools and resources and tell you guys about some upcoming trainings that can deep dive into a lot of this other stuff. Okay. All right, guys, where to invest. So this is what we do as a company. So Agents Invest, we've done all of the research on all of the different markets in the US and have come up with really what I truly think is the best areas to invest. But I want to give you guys that criteria. So first is we start with the demographics. Now, really quick, I will tell you guys, I have to give credit where credit is due. So I've been using this criteria that I'm going to walk you guys through for years. And then I met a guy named Neil Ballo, and he actually, interestingly enough, he had the same criteria as me, but he had 2 other things. The home value increase I hadn't really thought about, and then the income growth. I had always focused on areas with population growth, job growth, lower crime levels, and deals that cash flow. But from Neil, I got that it's also important to get the home value increases and the income growth. So this is my criteria. These are my 6 criteria. So to give you guys a little bit of example, population growth. So I look for cities with population growth, ideally 20% increase from 2000 to 2017. I use city-data.com and Google to find this data. And here's an example. So this is Clarksville, Tennessee. This is an area that I love. So it has a population of 153,205 as of the 2017 census. This is Detroit, Michigan. What do you guys notice is the difference between these 2 graphs? So Clarksville is going up, and shoot, it's been going up, quite a bit. Detroit, Michigan has been going down, and shoot, look at what happened in, this was probably like 2008, and it is still kind of at a decline. So actually, Clarksville, Tennessee has increased 48%. The population has increased 48% from 2000 to 2017. That is insane. That is a massive amount of growth. Whereas Detroit, I didn't actually do the math here, but they're losing a good amount of population. So sometimes when I see people that say, oh, I got the best deal in Detroit, or shoot, Memphis is really hot right now, or Birmingham, Alabama, or Cleveland, Ohio, the first thing I do is I pull these population stats. And any market where the market is declining, that is an area that I personally stay out of, because I think that a population decline, it actually, tells a lot, right? So it says that more people are leaving than the people that are coming in. And a lot of times they're leaving because of jobs, right? Or crime levels. Crime levels, I think, can affect that too. So job growth. So the Department of Numbers is what I use. So it's literally, if you just Google the Department of Numbers, and I use the last 12 months of percentage increase. So I'm looking for ideally 2% or higher annualized job growth. But the one thing that you guys need to watch out for is oil cities. So, I think we've all kind of paid attention to what happened to the prices of oil. So a couple of years ago, it was really, really low. Right now it's kind of, I guess, medium or high, but the jobs change, based on that. So just kind of keep in mind as you guys are paying attention to that. And here's an example. This is actually from February. I should have pulled another slide. But you see here where it says 1 year CES jobs percentage change. So Midland, Texas. What is that? That's oil. Those are oil related jobs, or, so pay attention to that. But Reno, Nevada, huge up there. Wheeling, St. George, Odessa, Texas, Boise, a lot of these different areas. So that's something that I pay attention to. It's changed actually over the last couple of months, but that's something to pay attention to. Okay, income growth. So I look for 30% median household income growth between 2000 and 2017. You can use city-data.com for that. So this is the example of Clarksville. So it was 37,000 in 2000, and as of 2016, it was 51,000. So that's really significant job growth. And actually, it's outpaced Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. So Clarksville, is higher than Tennessee. So why do we want to look at income growth? So income growth is important because if with our strategy, or the strategy that I recommend, is forced appreciation through income or through rent increases and NOI growth, the population has to be able to afford that, right? So if you're increasing your rents every couple of years and maybe every year, you need to make sure that that's supported in the area. So, again, you're wanting to make sure that before you invest or before you start looking at deals, that you've kind of honed in on these markets that will make sense for your strategy. All right, home value increases. So the median house or condo value. So I look for 40% growth in median house or condo value between the year 2000 to 2016. And I use city-data for that. So again, we're just sticking with Clarksville here. So it's 83,500 in 2000. And now it is 150,000. So that's, more than 40% growth there. Crime rates. All right, so this is important because for one, obviously, we're looking at property crime and, those kind of related crime rates, but also, just overall, right? This can affect your insurance rates. This can affect finding good tenants. This can affect population decline or growth. So here's a couple examples. So again, I'm just sticking with Clarksville just because to be consistent. But Clarksville, Tennessee has that 294. Detroit, Michigan, holy cow, 868. Chicago, Illinois, 510. Seattle, Washington, 447. So again, Seattle's kind of getting up there. Chicago's up there too, but gosh, look at Detroit. But Clarksville, 294. That's pretty good. And here's what this report looks like, by the way. It takes into account all the bad stuff. And it shows year by year. So actually, interestingly, it was a little bit higher. And then it looks like, some things were put in place. And actually over the last couple of years, from really 2010 to 2016, whatever might have caused a little slightly higher crime rates, it looks like they got ahead of that, which is great. All right, questions, comments. I'm going to jump back here to, yep, it is being recorded. I know, guys, I did it at noon on a Tuesday, so we will get this recorded and then send a replay out to everyone. Okay, Curtis, how do we get on your deal list? I will tell you guys that at the end, but you can go to our website and jump on. That Neil has a class on Udemy, yes. Love to see a deal analysis on a property. Yeah, so we actually have that training, so we'll give you guys some info on that. Actually, Matt, this is great. Ask about your tribe. Ask yourself, who do I have to become in order to be wealthy? Yes. Who is that person? What do they do? And how do they live their life each day? Absolutely. This is extremely great kind of, reflection, right? To kind of think about and sit down and just really kind of go through all of that. Okay, operations is never discussed. Yes, I'm glad that you agree with me. It kind of frustrates me, actually. But you're right. Would love to get into my operation system in place as I start to grow, not to when I can get desperate. Yeah. Okay. Your audio is gone. Oops. Okay, I think we're good now. All right, and then I'm going to jump to, okay, I know some of you guys have to get back to work. Totally understand. Would you like to stick with one great market or multiple markets? So to be honest, I still recommend 3. And here's the thing I've noticed, having done this for 12 years, anytime that I have said, oh, this is my market, this is great, it usually lasts for 12 to 18 months. And the downside, well, so the good and bad of that is what we hope to do for investors is to get into markets before everyone else does. And so, our goal is to, in some of these markets, people are like, Clarksville, Tennessee, I've never heard of that. And that's actually good, right? Because if everyone's heard of it, then, like, for example, Phoenix, Arizona. Everyone knows that Phoenix is an amazing place to invest. The challenge is everyone knows that Phoenix is an amazing place to invest, and the deals are really slim. There's not very good deals there. I mean, the cap rates are really pretty low. It's super hard to find anything that makes sense because everyone's, there because the job growth is there. So you want to try to get in before everyone else. And so, that's something that we really kind of focus on. So I would recommend having a couple of markets that you're looking in, just in case, one happens to fall on the Forbes list and, the deals aren't as good anymore, so that you have a couple of other markets that, you're really analyzing and looking in. All right. Okay. So, a lot of you guys had asked about additional training. So I want to kind of give you guys some feedback on that. So, our next training / build your tribe event is coming up next month. So October 4th through the 6th in Nashville, Tennessee. This is our Addicted to ROI Nashville event. So join us in Nashville. We're going to have a great weekend. We keep it at 30 investors. And then of course our team, then our local team. John took, we had 3 spots this morning. John took 1. So we literally have 2 spots left for this. So if you guys are interested in joining us in Nashville, where you can network with other investors, learn from the local team, and then work on building your tribe. We'll be in Nashville from the 4th through the 6th. So if you guys are interested, I'll also do a link in the recap for you guys so that you guys can get the info for this. You can also ping me too after the webinar and I'll get you the straight link. All right, so that is one. The next thing, so many of you guys, oh my gosh, I've gotten so many emails from our out-of-state or out-of-area people about doing an online buy and hold investing workshop. So basically everything that I said that we would do a deep dive on is going to be taught in this online buy and hold investing workshop. So the link to that is addictedtoroi.teachable.com. And so what we're going to do is it's actually a 2-day buy and hold workshop. covering in, all the details that, of course, we're not able to cover on this one webinar. So it'll be on October 12th and the 19th. So the first day on October 12th, we're going to cover that mindset piece. We're going to cover the financing strategies. So the, how to kind of getting your house in order. I know somebody else had asked about different ways to build your capital up. So that's what we're going to cover there. And then we're going to cover deal analysis. I know somebody else had asked if, what it would look like to analyze a deal live and kind of bring you guys through my training of how I analyze all of these different deals. So we're going to do that as well. And then we're also going to cover due diligence on that day. So again, super important to analyze the deal, make sure it matches your criteria, but also even after you're under contract, that's when a lot of the work starts. That's when you want to go through all of your due diligence, from a physical due diligence and a financial due diligence. So those are the 4 different lessons we're going to cover on October 12th. That'll be from 9 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time, and that's live. And then the second day is going to be October 19th from 9 to noon. The first is we're going to cover all those investing strategies. So I know you guys had asked about, well, what are some recession-proof investing strategies? So we're going to cover that. We also have a guest speaker, the amazing Margaret Smith. She's going to talk about house hacking. And then the second lesson is going to be on renovations. So how to handle renovations from afar. A lot of the properties that we're talking about are value add, meaning that they need some work. And so, we'll kind of walk through the process of how to choose, what finishes, and then how to project manage, these renovations from afar. Lesson 3, Matthew, to your point, we're going to talk about operations and asset management. So I'm going to kind of show you guys what I do and how somebody else had asked that question of, I think maybe it was Scott, of how do you get, additional capital after you've spent it. So in this, I kind of look at that as an asset management strategy in addition to a financing plan. So I'm going to show you guys on my asset management how I go back and determine, when it's time to do a 1031 exchange or when it's time to get a home equity line of credit in second position on an investment property. Yes, you can do that. And then also, when it might make sense to do a cash out refinance. We just did that a couple of months ago, and we got, I think, like $95,000 out of a property. The payment was $130 more a month, but we're using that to buy the 8 unit in Clarksville, Tennessee. So basically, we're using house money is what I call that. So I'll kind of break that down for you guys. And then lesson 4, we're going to go through the case studies of different properties in all these different areas. And then also we're going to do 2 group mastermind Q&A check-in calls. So literally where we'll just jump on for an hour and have you guys meet each other and just do some check-in calls, answer Q&A. And then we'll have additional bonus videos. We'll cover BRRRR financing, cover my personal story of how we achieved FI in just a couple of years. We're going to cover landlord insurance, commercial financing. And then as the third bonus, we'll do the 7 case study interviews with these investors who have replaced their W-2 income. Obviously, I think that all of this content is amazing, but truly just hearing from other people. So like Anne, we've got Elisa, we've got, the Iversons, Cody Touche, Rich Carey, Eric Bolin, all of my friends that have achieved FI in a couple of short years, we've got interviews with them. So that's going to be a huge value add. And then between now and September 15th, if you use code ROI at checkout, you can get $100 off. So FYI, that is coming up here soon. All right. So home stretch. If you guys want to learn more. So if you want to join our deal list, go to agentsinvest.com/investors. And you just have to fill out the kind of your criteria and your email, and then we'll get you added to the deal list. And you can also schedule a 20-minute consult with me, and we can kind of go over some of your personal stuff. And then, of course, we talked about the group investment trip in October, 2 spots left for that. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know. And then the online workshop, October 12th and 19th, and you can get that discount until the 15th. So I think that's a Saturday using code ROI. All right, and then I'm going to hit any other questions that you guys might have really quick. How can I find lenders that offer home equity lines of credit against investment properties? Yeah, there's a ton of them. So you probably just have to ask around depending on where you're at. But, we have a whole list of people that do lines of credit against investment properties. Typically, they're done at 70 LTV. But that's definitely, we've got several options for that. Okay, one last question here. If you have a goal of X number of doors to meet your desired monthly income, is it ever advisable to pay off loans with new W-2 money, or should you only use your rental profit? So that's a really, really good question. And to be honest, I probably would run the numbers. I think that, when you're in acquisition mode, my advice is to use as much of your savings as you can to build up your portfolio. And then, maybe that takes 2 or 3 years or so. And then you go back and you can take home equity lines of credit, or you can do cash out refinances and then kind of use that to continue to invest. But if your goal is to pay off loans soon, I don't know that it necessarily matters if it's with W-2 income or rental profit, because it's all kind of going on the same pocket as far as on your personal tax return. So, that's something, and that is something that we do, by the way. We take some of our money and we do pay down on our portfolio loans, so the loans that aren't fixed for 30 years. But I don't think it matters if it's W-2 money or rental profit, because you don't really get any tax savings from it. Okay, Martina, great question. So stay-at-home mom, how to qualify for financing. So I'm sure that Cody can cover that in our group investing workshop. That's something, and actually Cody has a really good story of how his girlfriend just bought a property, and she does not have enough, she's a sole proprietor, but she doesn't have the tax returns long enough to use that income, but she was still able to just buy a property she closed a couple of months ago. So there's some really good tips in there that Cody can share with you on how to do that. So it does come down to debt to income ratio. But of course, if you have income coming in from a rental property that you're buying, they can count that income. So really good question. I'm glad that you asked that. All right, guys, I know that I went over. I really value your time. And I've also got an agent here that's texted me about my mobile home park. So I got to get back to him so I can get that deal going. But thank you guys so much. I hope this was added value to you. And I hope to see you guys at one of our trainings. Hopefully we can meet in person soon. All right, guys, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.